Chapter 9. Esme. Esme ate far too much pizza. Her mother told her pizza would be the death of her. She never imagined it might actually be true. The Scythe attack came less than a minute after she was given her slice, piping hot from the oven. It was the end of the school day, and the daily trials of 4th grade had exhausted her. Lunch had stuck. The tuna salad her mother had given her was warm and mildly fermented by the time lunch rolled around. Not exactly appetizing. In fact, none of the food her mother packed for her hit high on the flavor scale. She was trying to get Esme to eat healthier, because Esme had a bit of a weight problem. And although her nanites could be programmed to speed up her metabolism, her mother wouldn't hear of it. She claimed it would be treating the symptom, not the problem. "You can't solve everything by tweaking your nanites," her mother told her. "You need to learn self-control." Well, she could learn self-control tomorrow. Today she wanted pizza. Her favorite pizza place, Luigi's, was in the food court of the Fulcrum City Galleria, which was on her way home from school. Sort of. She was negotiating the cheese, trying to figure out how to take that first bite without burning the roof of her mouth, when the Scythes arrived. Her back was to them, so she didn't see them at first, but she heard them, or at least one of them. "Good afternoon, good people," he said. "Your lives are about to change in a fundamental way." Esme turned to see them. 4 of them. They were clad in bright robes that glittered. They looked like no one Esme had ever seen. She had never met a Scythe. She was fascinated. Until 3 of them pulled out weapons that glistened even more than their bejeweled robes, and the 4th pulled out a flamethrower. "This food court has been selected for cleaning," their leader said, and they began their terrible mission. Esme knew what she had to do. Forgetting her pizza, she dropped beneath the table and crawled away. But she wasn't the only one. It seemed everyone had dropped and was scrambling on the floor. It didn't seem to faze the Scythes. She could see their feet through the crawling crowd. The fact that their victims were on all fours did not slow them down in the least. Now, Esme began to panic. She had heard stories of Scythes who did mass cleanings, but until now she thought they were nothing but stories. Before her, she could see the robes of the Scythes in yellow, so she doubled back, only to find the Scythe in green closing in. Esme crawled through a gap in the tables and between 2 potted palms that the Scythe in orange had set on fire, and when she emerged on the other side of the large pots, she found herself with no cover. She was at the food concessions now. The man who had served her pizza was slumped over the counter, dead. There was a gap between a trash can and the wall. She was not a slim girl, so she thought the skinniest thoughts she could, and squeezed her way into the gap. It was not much of a hiding space, but if she left it, she would be right in the line of fire. She had already seen 2 people trying to dart across the walkway, and both were taken down by steel crossbow arrows. She didn't dare move, so instead, she buried her face in her hands. She stayed that way, sobbing, listening to the terrible sounds around her, until silence fell. Still, she refused to open her eyes until she heard the man say, "Hello there." Esme opened her eyes to see the lead Scythe, the one in blue, standing over her. Please," she begged. "Please, don't clean me." The man held out his hand to her. "The cleaning is over," he said. "There's no one left but you. Now, take my hand." Afraid to refuse, Esme reached out and placed her hand in his, and rose from her hiding place. "I've been looking for you, Esme," he said. Esme gasped when she heard him say her name. Why would a Scythe be looking for her? The other 3 Scythes gathered around. None of them raised a weapon at her. "You'll be coming with us now," the Scythe in blue said. But my mother—" "Your mother knows. I've granted her immunity." "Really?" "Yes, really." Then the girl Scythe in emerald green handed Esme a plate. "I believe this was your pizza." Esme took it. It was cool enough to eat now. "Thank you." "Come with us," said the Scythe in blue. "And I promise you, from this moment on, your life will be everything you've ever dreamed it could be." And so Esme left with the foresight, thankful to be alive, and trying not to think of the many around her who weren't. These were certainly not the ways she imagined her day would go, but who was she to fight against something that rang so clearly of destiny? Was there ever a time when people weren't plagued with boredom? A time when motivation wasn't so hard to come by? When I look at the new archives from the age of mortality, it seems people had more reasons to do the things they did. Life was about forging time, not but just passing time. And those new reports, how exciting they were, filled with all nature of criminal activity. Your neighbor could be a salesperson of illegal chemicals of recreation. Ordinary people would take life without the permission of society. Angry individuals would take possession of vehicles they didn't own, then lead law enforcement officers in dangerous pursuits on uncontrolled roadways. We do have the unsavories nowadays, but they do little more than drop occasional pieces of litter and move shop items to places they don't belong. No one rages against the system anymore. At most, they just glare at it a bit. Perhaps this is why the Thunderhead still allows a measured amount of economic inequality. It could certainly make sure that everyone had equal wealth, but that would just add to the plague of boredom that afflicts the immortal. Although we all have what we need, we're still allowed to strive for the things we want. Of course, no one strives like they did in mortal days. When the inequality was so great, people would actually steal from one another, sometimes ending lives in the process. I wouldn't want the return of crime, but I do tire of we, Scythe, being the sole purveyors of fear. It would be nice to have competition. From the Gleaning Journal of H.S. Curry. Chapter 10. Forbidden Responses. Dude, I'm telling you, it's all anyone can talk about. Everyone thinks you're becoming a size to take revenge on the school. On a mild day in March, on one of the rare afternoons that Size Faraday allowed Rowan downtown, Rowan had gone to visit his friend Tiger, who had not splatted once in the past 3 months. Now, they shot hoops at a park just a few blocks away from Rowan's home, where he wasn't allowed to visit, and might not have been if he were allowed. Rowan threw Tiger the ball. That's not why I accepted the apprenticeship. I know that, and you know that, but people will believe whatever they want to believe, he grinned. Suddenly, I got all sorts of game because I'm your friend. They think I can get them access to your ring. Immunity talks, death walks. The thought of Tiger playing intercessor on his behalf almost made Rowan laugh. He could see Tiger milking that for all it was worth, probably charging people for the service. Rowan stole the ball and took a shot. He hadn't played since before moving in with the Scythe, but he found his arm, if not his aim. He was stronger than ever, and had endless stamina, all thanks to his vocator training. So, when you get your ring, you are gonna give me immunity, right? Tiger took a shot and missed. It was clearly intentional. He was letting Rowan win. First of all, I don't know that he'll choose me to get the ring, and secondly, I can give you immunity. Tiger looked genuinely shocked. What? Why not? That's playing favorites. Isn't that what friends are for? A few other kids came to the court and asked if maybe they wanted to play a pick-up game. But the second they saw Rowan's armband, they had a change of heart. No worries, the oldest one said. It's all yours. It was exasperating. No, we can all play. Nah, we'll go somewhere else. I said we can all play, Rowan insisted, and he saw such fear in the other kid's eyes. He felt the same for pushing. Yeah, sure, said the other kid. He turned to his friends. You heard the man? Play. They took to the court in earnest, and in earnest played to lose, just as Tiger had. Was this how it would always be? Was he now such an intimidating presence that even his own friends would be afraid to truly challenge him? The only one who ever challenged him in any way now was Scythe. Rowan quickly lost interest in the game and left with Tiger, who found it all amusing. Dude, you're not Letius anymore. You're Deadly Nightshade. You're the mean greens now. Tiger was right. If Rowan had told those other kids to get down on all fours and lick the pavement, they would have. It was hideous and horrible, and he didn't want to think about it. Rowan didn't know what possessed him to do what he did. Next, frustration at his isolation, maybe, or maybe just wanting to bring a sliver of his old life into his new one. When I come over and see the Scythe's place, Tiger was a little dubious. Will he mind? He's not there, Rowan told him. He's cleaning in another city today. He won't be home till late. He knew that Scythe's Faraday would blow a brainstem if he found out. Rowan had someone over. It made the desire to do it even more enticing. He had been so good, so obedient. It was about time he did something that he wanted to do. When they arrived, the house was empty. Scythe, who also was granted a free afternoon by Scythe's Faraday, was out. He had wanted Tiger to meet her, but then thought, what if they happen to like each other? What if Tiger charms her? He always had a way with girls. He had even convinced a girl to splat with him once, just so he could say, girls fall for me, literally. It will be like Romeo and Juliet, he had told her, except we get to come back. Needless to say, the girl's parents were livid, and after she was revived, they forbade her to see Tiger ever again. Tiger shrugged it off. What can I say? Her life is a tale told by idiots, which Rowan believed was a very bad Shakespeare misquote. The thought of Scythe falling for Tiger, even just figuratively, made Rowan a bit nauseated. This is it, Tiger said as he looked around the place. It's just a house. What did you expect? A secret underground lair? Actually, yeah, or something like it. I mean, look at this furniture. I can't believe he makes you live in this hellhole. It's not so bad. Come on, I'll show you something cool. He took Tiger to the weapons stand, which, as expected, Tiger found truly impressive. This is so wet. I've never seen so many knives, and are those guns? I've only seen them in pictures. He took a pistol off the wall and looked in the barrel. Don't do that. Calm down. I'm a splatter, not a blaster. Rowan took it away from him anyway, and in the time it took to put it back on the wall, Tiger had taken down a machete and was swishing it through the air. Think I could borrow this? Absolutely not. Come on. He's got so many. He'll never miss it. Tiger, Rowan knew, was the very definition of bad idea. That had always been part of the fun of being his friend. But now that was a major liability. Rowan grabbed Tiger's arm, kicked him behind the knee to buckle his leg, and spun him to the ground, all in a single buccator move. Then he held Tiger's arm at an unnatural angle, with just enough leverage for it to hurt. What the hell? Tiger said through gritted teeth. Drop the machete now. Tiger did, and just then they heard the front door being opened. Rowan let go. Be quiet, he said in a power whisper. He picked out the door, but couldn't see who had come in. Stay here, he told Tiger. Then he slipped out to find Scythe closing the front door behind her. She must have been running, because she wore a workout outfit that was much more revealing than Rowan needed at the moment. It drained far too much blood from his brain. So he focused on her apprentice armband to remind himself that hormonal responses were strictly forbidden. Scythe looked up and gave him an obligatory greeting. Hey, Rowan. Hey, something wrong? No. Why are you just standing there? Where should I be standing? She rolled her eyes and went into the bathroom, closing the door. Rowan slipped back into the weapons then. Who is it? Asked Tiger. Is it... what's her name? I want to meet your competition. Maybe she'll give me immunity or something else. No, Rowan told him. It's Scythe's Faraday, and he'll clean you on the spot if he finds you here. Suddenly Tiger's bravado evaporated. Oh, crap! What are we gonna do? Calm down. He's taking a shower. As long as you're quiet, I can get you out. They came out into the hallway. Sure enough, the sound of a shower hissed behind the closed bathroom door. He's washing off the blood? Yeah, there was a lot of it. He led Tiger to the front door, and did everything short of pushing him out. After being an apprentice for nearly 3 months, Scythe couldn't deny that she wanted to be chosen by Scythe's Faraday to receive the ring. As much as she resisted, as much as she told herself this was not life for her, She had come to see its importance, and how good a Scythe she would be. She had always wanted to live a life of substance and to make a difference. As a Scythe, she would. Yes, she would have blood on her hands, but blood can be a cleansing thing. It was certainly treated as such in Bocator. Citra found Black Widow Bocator to be the most physically demanding thing she had ever done. Their trainer was Scythe Yingxing, who used no weapons but his own hands and feet to glean. He had taken a vow of silence. It seemed every Scythe had surrendered something of themselves, not because they had to, but because they chose to, as a way to pay for the lives they took. What would you give up? Rowan once asked Citra. The question made her uncomfortable. If I become a Scythe, I'm giving up my life, aren't I? I think that's enough. You're also giving up a family, Rowan reminded her. She nodded, not wanting to speak to it. The idea of having a family was so far off to her. The idea of not having one felt equally distant. It was hard to have feelings about something she was years away from even considering. Besides, such things had to be kept far from her mind during Bocator. One's mind had to be clear. Citra had never taken any sort of martial art before. She had always been a non-contact sport kind of girl. Track, swimming, tennis, any sport that had a clear lane line or net between her and her opponent. Bocator was the antithesis of that. Hand to hand, body to body, combat. Even communication was entirely physical in the class, as their mute instructor would correct their positions as if they were action figures. It was all mind and body without the brass mediation of words. There were 8 in their class, and although their instructor was a Scythe, Citra and Rowan were the only apprentices. The others were junior Scythes in the first years of their Scythehood. There was one other girl who made no overtures of friendship to Citra. The girls were given no special treatment and were expected to be every bit the equal of the boys. Sparring was punishing in Bocator. Each match began simple enough, with a ritualistic strutting around the circle, the two combatants physically taunting each other in a sort of aggressive dance. Then things got serious and brutal, all nature of kicks and punches and body slams. Today she sparred against Rowan. He had more finesse to his moves, but he had the advantage of speed. He was stronger, but he was also taller, which was not an asset. Citra's lower center of gravity made her more stable. All taken into account, they were evenly matched. She spun and gave Rowan a powerful kick to the chest that almost took him down. Good one, Rowan said. Scythe Yingxing thipped his own lip to remind them that there was no crosstalk during combat. She came at him from his left, and he countered so quickly she had no idea where his hand had come from. It was as if he suddenly had 3. She was thrown off balance, but only for an instant. She felt heat where his hand had connected with her side. There will be a bruise, she grinned. He'll pay for that. She fainted, left again, then came at him from the right with the full force of her body. She took him down and had him pinned, but it was as if gravity reversed, and suddenly she realized he had turned the tables. Now he was on top, pinning her. She could have flipped him again. She had the leverage, but she didn't do it. She could feel his heartbeat now as if it were beating in her own chest, and she realized she wanted to feel that a little longer. She wanted to feel it more than she wanted to win the match. That made her angry. Angry enough to pull away from his grip and put some space between them. There was no lane line, no net, nothing to keep them apart but the wall of her will. But that wall kept losing bricks. Scythe Yingxing signaled the end of the match. Scythe and Rowan bowed each other, then took their places on opposite sides of the circle as 2 others were called up to spar. Scythe watched intently, determined not to give Rowan a single glance. We are not the same beings we once were. Consider our inability to grasp literature and most entertainment from the mortal age. To us, The things that stirred mortal human emotions are incomprehensible. Only stories of love pass through our post-mortal filter. Yet, even then, we're baffled by the intensity of longing and loss that threatens those mortal tales of love. We could blame it on our emo nanites, limiting our despair, but it runs far deeper than that. Mortals fantasize that love was eternal and its loss unimaginable. Now we know that neither is true. Love remained mortal while we became eternal. Only Scythes can equalize that. But everyone knows the chance of being land in this, or even the next millennium, is so low as to be ignored. We are not the same beings we once were. So then, if we are no longer human, what are we? From the Gleaning Journal of H.S. Curry.